And Brandon, let's end the podcast like we always do, making our picks for this is week number 8 of the college football season. And Brandon, if everyone's watching us on YouTube, they're like, guys, what are you doing? This is the first video we're seeing. Well, it is. It's the end of the podcast, but it's the first time you see us on YouTube as this goes up way early in the morning on Tuesdays. But how we do it is we pick all the top 25 games for this week, and then at the end, Brandon gives a non-top 25 game to pick. I give a non-top 25 game to pick, and that is just an extra pick we do at the end. I always have to say it. We are picking straight pick 'em, not the line. If you guys want the line, let us know, and we will do that next year if you guys want. But Brandon, let's start things off. First off, before I get into it, I have to say, last week was a better week for me than you, but it was only by one. I finished 11-6 on the week. You finished 10-7. So I am at 112 and 34 on the year. Now only 2 behind you. You are 114 and 32. Let's see if I can catch you this week. The first game we will have is Madison, Wisconsin, Camp Randall Stadium, a pissed-off Wisconsin team playing my Illinois Fighting Illini. I would love to pick the Fighting Illini in this one, but they let me down last week. Wisconsin's pissed off. I'm going with the Badgers to win at Camp Randall.
Yeah, I think Illinois might be able to hang with Wisconsin at 7-7. But after that, I don't think it'll be much more. I think Wisconsin gets the win here at home. Wisconsin, typically and historically, good at Camp Randall. They will be on Saturday.
I walked into work, too, this morning, and the thing I said to one of my coworkers was, because he was shocked on Friday that Illinois was a 10-point underdog to Purdue, and I couldn't tell him why we were. Maybe because it was homecoming, but I walked in today and I was like, hey, how about that 10-point underdog for Illinois as we just got smoked by the Purdue Boilermakers. How about the next one, a inter-top 25 matchup and a battle for the state of Michigan. The Michigan Wolverines at 6-1 go into Michigan State, who is coming off the upset of Penn State. What are you thinking, Brandon? The Wolverines, or are you going with Sparty in East Lansing?
Well, that was just an incredible game that Michigan State had against Penn State last week. That was incredible, unbelievable, and crap is what I think it was. Because I don't know how Penn State is able to take their eye off the prize at the very end. It's really unfortunate because, again, that's 2 games now. And I don't even consider myself to be a Penn State fan. Mm-hmm. But that's 2 games now where they have taken their foot off the pedal and they've lost the game. I'm going to go with Michigan in this one. I know that it's in East Lansing, but Michigan, with the way they looked last week against Wisconsin, I kind of thought that's how the game might go. But Michigan, it's like they finally came alive, and they're going to need to again this week. But Michigan State, the last time they played at home, it was Northwestern, and Northwestern got the win. I'm going to say Michigan comes in and gets the win as well.
Yeah, this is one where in this game, the winner has their season continue. The loser's season is over in my mind because Michigan State, if they win this one, they still have a chance then to win out and win the Big Ten Beast, whereas Michigan, they have to keep winning because they want to be undefeated in the Big Ten when they get to their date against the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm going with Michigan in this one to get the W in East Lansing and officially end the year for the Michigan State Spartans in the Big Ten. Then a next one we've got, this is a Big 12 matchup. This is one I know we were excited for at the beginning of the season, but following 2 conference losses for the TCU Horned Frogs and a conference loss for Oklahoma, Oklahoma's got something to play for. TCU still might. They might be able to be the second team in the Big 12, depending on what happens to Texas or West Virginia. What are your thoughts heading into Fort Worth, Texas, Oklahoma and TCU. Oklahoma, the 7.5 point favorite.
Well, Oklahoma, they were on a bye this past week, and it came at a good time after that tough loss to Texas. I think that Oklahoma is going to go into TCU and get the win. I know that this TCU defense can be pretty good. They've been a little inconsistent. I think Oklahoma is going to be upset, and they're going to want to continue to play for something here. And even with one loss, they still can be alive, so might be. And they definitely need to get a win this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to agree with you, but I got to. Oklahoma, like, that's the one thing. I hate to agree with you because I want to gain picks on you, but I got to go with Oklahoma to get the win here because I think they are just they're rested, they're going to be angry following that loss to Texas, and they're going to take it out on TCU this Saturday. Then the next one, I had problems picking this game. Maryland going into Iowa City to play the Iowa Hawkeyes. And this is what I was thinking. My first thought was, I want to pick Maryland in this one. But then I started thinking, I'm like, Iowa's been good recently. You've got Maryland. Yeah, they won in their last game, but that was to Rutgers. Anyone could beat Rutgers. It's like I was tweeting with a fellow Illini fan about the Illini, and I said, when's basketball season? And he said, too bad that they're in the same boat as the football team, which is in the SS, thank God for Rutgers, because anyone can beat Rutgers. Their last real game was a loss at Michigan where they lost 42-21. So because of that, I'm going to go with Iowa to get the win at home over the Terrapins. What are you thinking about this one?
I'm going to go with Iowa, too. I was pretty strong at Kinnick Stadium, so I've got to go with the Hawkeyes.
And then our next one, I was shocked to see them in the top 25 because we have not picked one of their games all year. We've got the Cincinnati Bearcats at 6-0 on the year playing the 4-3 Temple Owls. This one will be at Lincoln Financial Field where the Philadelphia Eagles, play their football games. Who are you going with, the undefeated Bearcats or the 3-loss Temple Owls?
I'm going to go with Cincinnati. The newcomer to the top 25. I'm going to pick them to beat Temple. Temple with a win over Maryland earlier this year, and they just got a win over Navy, but I'm still going to go with Cincinnati. They're going to remain perfect.
Yeah, this is one where I got to agree with you. Like, I'm going to go with Cincy. They're going to stay undefeated. However, Temple may be able to make it a close one, maybe, but I'm going to go with the Bearcats to get the win in Philly. Then an interesting one in my mind, Knoxville, Tennessee, the site. Tennessee getting a big win, their first conference win over the Auburn Tigers last week. Jeremy Pruitt proving that he knows how to coach his boys to a victory against Auburn because of all the secrets that he's learned about them while at Alabama. Well, speaking of Alabama, they come in at 7-0. Number one team in the country. They're a 29-point favorite. Does Jeremy Pruitt have the schnuff to get his Vols the upset against Bama this week in Knoxville?
Well, here's the thing, is that Tennessee with a huge win last week against Auburn. It's a big win. And that game was on the road, and they were able to get that win. Alabama with a big win as well, 39-10, but an injured Tua in that game. And now, is he going to practice today? I think he was supposed to practice today on the day that we were recording this. I will have to go and check for sure to see if he did. But there's also been some reports of people kind of going back and forth. Is it worth starting Tua in this game? In my opinion, I would still say yes. If he's healthy, he should go. But that will be an interesting thing getting later in the week for Alabama and the Crimson Tide. I do still believe Alabama wins this game and wins this game easily.
Yeah, there's one rule that I have here on the podcast, Brandon, and that is when the season starts, I pick Alabama until they lose. So I got to continue that. Until Alabama proves to me that they are mortal and can lose a game, I am going to pick them, and I pick them to beat the Vols this weekend. Then an interesting one, only because I'm praying that we pick the different opponent in this one. 16 NC State, 5-0, 2-0 in the conference, going up against 6-0, 3-0 in the conference, number 3 in the country, the Clemson Tigers in Clemson. Clemson is a 17-point favorite. Who do you got, the Wolfpack or the Tigres?
Well, the last time when I had picked NC State, they were playing against Boston College. They won 20-23. It was a close game. This is a team that's 5-0, but that's also 5-0 with a canceled game against West Virginia on their schedule. West Virginia, if they play that game, West Virginia beats them. West Virginia has too much offense. The thing here is, will Clemson have enough offense? I think they will. I think their defense will come to play. It's on the road. It's at Clemson. I think the Tigers get the win over the Wolfpack.
I hate you. You know that, Brandon? I hate you. Because I am also picking the Tigers in this one. Like, part of me was like, oh, I'm going to pick the Wolfpack. They're going to get the win. Oh, wait, it's in Clemson. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Tigers in this one. That defense is going to be really good in that stadium. So I'm going with Clemson to get the win. Next one, we've got Pac-12 football. This one will be on early enough for Brandon to watch. It's a 12 p.m. kickoff in the Pacific area, which means it's a 2:30 one for us. Washington hosting the Colorado Buffaloes in Seattle. Washington is our 16.5-point favorite. Who you got, the Huskies or the Buffs?
I've got to go with Washington here. It's at home. They've got to get a bounce-back victory here. They should have had a win last week over Oregon in regulation. Their kicker, after putting one right down the middle before the timeout is called, after the timeout's called, they still snap it. He puts it right down the middle, and that was back-to-back timeouts, and that was, a little BS on Oregon. But fine, you have the timeout, burn them, I guess, whatever. But then he comes back, and I'm like, well, he's got to make this. He just put that one right down the middle. He comes and he shanks it right. So it's like, you suck. But I'm going to go with Washington. Hopefully they don't have to lean on that kicker for a win this week against Colorado, who's coming off their first loss against USC. Yeah,
you shocked me. Like you said, you texted me, and I quote, pull his scholarship. I was like, damn, Brandon, that's a little harsh. It's a little harsh for one missed kick.
Well, but that was a big missed kick. It was a big missed kick because it was the difference between 2 losses or holding with 1 loss. And with 2 losses, I mean, you're in the Pac-12, first of all, it works against you. But then 2 losses in the Pac-12, I mean, your hopes of a chance at the playoff is completely done. Again, not a Washington fan, but apparently I was on Saturday.
Well, like you said, the playoffs might be done, but I want to look at, they are still in first in the Pac-12 North for now. Oregon might be able to, because that was their first conference loss, so Oregon might be able to hold the tiebreaker if they can win out. I'm going to go with Washington too, and that's why I said, because to this point we have picked every single game the same, and it probably will not change here. Penn State going into Bloomington, Indiana to play the Hoosiers. I'm just going to get mine out of the way first this time. I know they blew the game against the Michigan State Spartans, but I am going with James Franklin and the Nittany Lions to get a win over the Hoosiers in Indy. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I've got to go with Penn State as well. I think that this is, it's one of those games where you got to bounce back. You've got to bounce back. You got to put the last one in the rearview mirror. It's 2 very tough losses. Now with the Ohio State loss, now this Michigan State loss, you cannot go into Indiana and go back to what happened last week. You got to go in and hopefully for Penn State kind of win handily.
And the next one is LSU. They're now the number 5 team in the country. They are hosting the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They're only a 6.5-point favorite at LSU. What are you thinking about LSU versus the SEC's version of MSU?
Well, LSU did an incredible job last week against Georgia. Everything seemed to go absolutely right for them. They did a great job of limiting Jake Fromm, and I think that that's going to be the Achilles heel right now for the Georgia Bulldogs as they move forward. It's going to be that quarterback position for LSU. There were a lot of really good things that they were able to take away from that. Joe Burrow didn't turn the football over. Their running game was outstanding. This is a team that's really good. I think that Mississippi State is going to give them a really good game, and I think this game is going to be much closer than the game against Georgia. But I'm still going to have to go with the Tigers here. I think that they've got a lot of confidence after last week's win, and I think since it's at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, they've got a lot of things in their favor. I think they beat Mississippi State.
And the thing I find most funny about the LSU-Georgia game is if you guys watched or listened to our segment last week about Georgia surviving their next 4 games, the comment section didn't like you, Brandon, for screwing up the math on some rushing totals because...
Yeah, excuse me, you say a stat wrong. Sorry, I did. I was wrong.
But the funny thing about it is, were you wrong or were you just telling the future? Because the comments were like, they've never given up over 245 yards in a game. I don't know what you're talking about. They gave up 275 to LSU. So Brandon was just telling the future, my friends. Brandon was just looking in the crystal ball. I am doing the podcast with Nostradamus of the college football world. Brandon can look into the future and see the future, and that's what he did with LSU Georgia. I'm going with LSU in this one. They are on a roll. I'm almost going to do the same thing with them as Bama until those two play, which will only be one game because after this one, LSU will be playing Alabama in their next game. So I'm going to go with the Tigers to get the win over the Bulldogs. Another 2 games that I think we'll agree on the next 3, but the next one, we've got number 10 in the country, UCF, the Knights, going up against East Carolina, and then also UConn going up against undefeated South Florida. We're just going to package these two together. I've got both the Florida teams, Central Florida, Southern Florida. They're both going to get the win. They will both stay undefeated. UCF will still stay around, maybe be in the playoff talk. What do you think about the next 2?
Ricky, what's incredible is these 2 teams won their games by a combined 2 points this past weekend. UCF won 31-30 over Memphis, and South Florida beat Tulane 25-24. Absolutely incredible. I think it's kind of crap. Again, UCF should have lost, let's be honest about it. But I got to go with UCF. It's kind of like, it's also similar to the Bama thing until UCF loses, which they probably won't because you have to play someone to lose. But I'm going to go with UCF, and I'm going to go with South Florida.
And then our next one, we've got the Ohio State Buckeyes going up against the Purdue Boilermakers. Is there any way Purdue wins this game, Brandon? Because I'm going with the Ohio State University.
No, I don't think that Purdue's gonna win this one. It's at home, but I would like to see for Purdue for their, just to maybe feel a little bit good about this, is can they hold down this team for a little bit? Can they hold down Ohio State for a half? Can they hang with them? Purdue of last year might have been able to. Purdue of this year, I'm not so sure. I'm going to go with Ohio State and the Dwayne Haskins to win. But let's see if Purdue can give them a little bit of a game.
What about the next one? A ranked versus ranked matchup, 12 Oregon, 25 Washington State. There is no line as of right now, so it's a straight pick 'em. I'm going with Oregon to get the win at Washington State. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going Oregon too. They're coming off a huge win in overtime against Washington. That was a big win for them. They will get the win here on the road.
And now we got 2 chances. I know that we'll have one game that won't be the same because we're probably not going to pick the same top 25 game. I'll be mad, or non-top 25 game. I'll be mad if we do. But the last top 25 game for me and you to have a different winner. There's Vanderbilt playing Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. Vanderbilt almost got the win over Florida last week. Brandon, please tell me you're picking Vanderbilt.
Picking Kentucky, buddy.
Oh, no. Oh, we have the same picks.
Picking Kentucky. Games at home at Kroger Field. Vandy, yeah, they're coming off a game where they really had a chance to beat Florida. I mean, up 21-3?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Florida showed that they actually might have a little bit of offense, and that's scary because if you pair that with a good Florida defense, that could be a team that gets going a little bit. Kentucky is a team right now where if they found a passing game, which I don't think they're going to, that would be really helpful for them in the running game. That's what's kind of carrying this Kentucky team right now. They really need to find Kentucky's got to find a passing game. They really do. That's one thing that really holds them back for the most part. You look at this team and they could have definitely beat Texas A&M and the Aggies, but I've got to go with Kentucky.
And then I will go to you first. We got one game left each. What is your non-top 25 matchup for this week that you're picking?
All right. Well, I didn't have one yet, but let me.
Do you want me to go with mine first then?
Yeah, go with yours while I try and finalize mine.
All right. So for mine, this is the only time if I had the button, I pushed it, but I tapped the table instead. Going with an upset special here. One of the only upsets that I have this week, and this is going to be in the Big Ten. We've got the Minnesota Golden Gophers on one side, the Nebraska Cornhuskers on the other. I saw on Twitter after this week that there are fans in Lincoln, Nebraska that want Scott Frost fired already. Why? It's only been 1 year. I know that he said that he's in new territory. He's never been in this situation, so he couldn't prepare for it. But now that he's in it, he's going to figure out what to do. Yes, you're 0-6 for the first time in forever, maybe even ever in the program. You are a 3.5-point favorite at home. Actually, this isn't an upset special, but I'm saying upset special because you have an 0-6 record and have not won a game, so I am hitting that button yet again. I am going with the Cornhuskers to get the win over Minnesota, and they will get their first win of the season this week. Whew.
Wow, you got really into that one.
I got a little fired up for that one. Little got the juices flowing over here.
Well, Ricky, I had a game picked out, and then I was thinking, maybe I'll go. Can I go with one that's not even in the Power 5 conference?
You can go with, if you want to go FCS. I thought about it as well, so you can go ahead and do it.
All right. Well, thank you. Then I am going to go with the Utah State Aggies, who are riding a 5-game winning streak, and I am going to go with them to get the win on the road playing the Wyoming Cowboys. So that's who I'm going to go with.
Going Utah State to get a win. I mean, part of me, there's a big matchup going on in Fargo, North Dakota this week, too, with Illinois State. That's not that far from us. They're going to be going up and playing the Bison, Carson Wentz's alum, the North Dakota State Bison. That's another big FCS one. I'm looking FCS now. I'm not even looking FBS. I know yours was FBS, but yeah, there's some big games going on there too. Any final thoughts on anything before we wrap this shindig up?
No, well, since we picked so many of the same teams and we pretty much pick, kind of straight down in terms of their ranking, that means we're probably going to lose a lot of games this weekend.
Yeah, but the good thing is the only games I have to focus on this week for wins and losses are the Nebraska game and the Utah State game. Because that's all that matters to me is getting you in the rankings, which, we picked all the same top 25s. But like I said earlier, the reason why we did the big board this week is because this is, on paper, not a real fun week in college football where most of the big boys are taking their buys for this week. But that is going to do it for our podcast. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What are your picks for this week? What do you think of this week in college football? And what do you think of our picks most of all? I want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast this week. Make sure to check us out on patreon.com/MostValuedPodcast to help support the channel. You can also do so by getting yourself an MVP t-shirt. That link is down below in the description as well. You can also get it at mostvaluablepodcast.com, where you can catch MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, please, if you have Apple Podcasts, you have iTunes, please go over, give us a 5-star rating. Let us know why you like listening to the podcast. And as we're right here at the end of the podcast, Brandon, as I always do, I'll see if we got any new reviews since last week. We did. We have 10, and we did. We got one from Dan H., who is Dan H12ND, said stumbled onto this podcast on YouTube, had to come to iTunes and subscribe. These guys do a decent amount of prep for their show. From what I can see, they seem to have well thought out points. It can be hard to find good college football content, and these guys seem to be doing a great job of delivering that. Keep up the good work, guys, and he gave us a 5-star rating, so thanks to Dan. If you guys could go over and give us a rating on iTunes too, that would mean the world to us. I want to thank you guys for listening to this week, and as always, have a good day, everybody.